I am sure sports. You know me there, I'm coast to coast representing. I mean, I say this is righteous representing for Omar. You don't know, come get the sports over here from near and far. Boy. Me say I am sure sports, one thing me sure about. When me say sure, that me not doubt. Come get your sports, get it over here. Come subscribe, repost and share. I am sure sports, one thing me sure about. When me say sure, that me not doubt. Come get your sports, get it over here. Come subscribe, repost and share. If me not sure, that me not say it. Know who score, that me not say it. Never know no game play, that me not say it. If me never see no game, me not know who play. For your sports news, better come over here so. For your soccer news, then come over here so. If you don't love sports, still come over here so. For the day done, you are gonna love over here so.
So when it comes on to behavior concerning football, Jamaica is decent. I am sure that if we can get all of these things done, set in place by the end of April, it gives us enough time before the World Cup campaign. Not afraid of no Brazil, no Argentina with these crap of players. We are good enough. Remember, like, subscribe, share. Listen, comment, let me know what your thoughts are.
Trick Jerk Marinade gives your meats and vegetables authentic Jamaican jerk flavor. The spices are directly from Jamaica. Spices like jerk seasoning, allspice, Scotch bonnet pepper, fresh scallions, thyme, ginger, and garlic. The key ingredients to a great jerk marinade. 0% sugar and low in sodium. You want to try it?
Made up of 18 Jamaican herbs and spices, add delicious, bold flavor to your next grilling experience. Flavoring sauce, a marinade, basting, condiment, or topping. Trick Nick Jerk Barbecue Sauce.
All right. Good morning and welcome to I Am Sure Sports. I am your host, Manningsman, and it's always a pleasure being with you. It is my joy and pleasure to be with you. Hope you had a wonderful weekend and you have gotten up this Monday morning looking at a better day, hoping for a better day. I always want to encourage you to look to the hills from whence cometh your help. Your help comes from the Creator who has made the heavens and the earth. Right? He is your shepherd, and because of that you shall not want. You know, you have to give thanks that you have life and you're living. I mean, many persons would have died because of accidents, acts of criminality, and sicknesses, but we are here to live another day, and we are forever grateful for that. We also get involved in having conversations that shape our lives and generations to come. And when we enter these conversations, we treat them this way. Very simple. How can we do it better? It is never to tear down, but we always seek to build up, because that's what we ought to do, and that is who we are. We are one community, whether we are in Jamaica, Barbados, Guyana, Trinidad and Tobago. It's one Caribbean, just as how Europe is together and the America is the United States. Imagine how powerful we would be if we operated as one Caribbean. And so today our discussion is with someone who, through coaching education, is trying to ensure that at the coaching level we are one people, educated in the sport of football at the highest level, to be able to impact football, not just in Jamaica, but in St. Martin's, in the smallest Caribbean spaces, the Bermudas, the Anguillas, as well as in Jamaica and Trinidad and the bigger Caribbean nations. And so I'm looking forward to this conversation. Of course, he is from Trinidad and Tobago, and I would not do any justice in terms of properly reading out and explaining his bio. So I ensure that I have the better host, and I am sure sports to do all of that. That he started out as being Andre Fortune, but because he visited Arsenal game, and there has been a lot of misfortune, they have now labeled him Andre Miss Fortune. All right, because the fortunes of Arsenal have changed since he has visited London. So I'll invite him to come on and introduce our guest.
I can assure you. Thank you, management. I can assure you that I have nothing to do with the misfortunes of Arsenal at the moment. I can probably provide an explanation of what I think it is, but let's try to utilize our time properly this morning, because our guest this morning is would like to, if we can keep it at an hour, although we've had the experience before that when the conversation is good, the guest chooses to go a little bit longer. So let's I think we were fortunate to have Anton Corneal on this morning. I know he's very busy. He's the technical director of Trinidad and Tobago, a post that he's held now, at least for the past year. He's also a CONCACAF coach educator, developer, and coaching educator, and a FIFA leadership expert. He's had a long history, and I think that is he will do it, a long history in the game, and I think he will do himself justice if he can speak about that history, because I think my observation is that there may not be a lot of people that is aware of the work that he's doing. So let's bring him on and give him the opportunity to do that.
Good morning, Mr. Corneal.
Good morning, guys.
Morning, Anton.
Morning, Andre.
How you doing?
Quite good. Busy, as you said,
Yeah.
but doing well. Busy comes with a job.
And busy is good, some people say. Busy is good. Look, I want us to use, I didn't get a chance in the back office just now to introduce you to Manning's man. I ran into him a few months ago, and I'm doing some good work in the Jamaican community. And I think from observation of a number of people that does this, he's quite credible individual. And I think his intention is in the best interest of football. So welcome to his platform. He's been gracious enough to allow me to use it, because the intention when we discuss this is to try to bring football. My opinion is that football belongs to the people, and people in leadership position, and I know you understand the responsibilities of leadership quite well, should reach out, should engage the stakeholders in the game in terms of what is taking place. And I think transparency is also important. You're a brother, you're a friend, you're a colleague, someone that I've known for a long time. The work that you're doing in the region in order to develop coaching education, I think the footballing public in the region should know about it. So we invited you here today to give you the opportunity to do that. But I'd first like to start. I think it's important for people to understand, first you're the technical director, and you also work with CONCACAF. You're the technical director of Trinidad and Tobago. And that position in itself has its qualifications. And I think, I'd just like to start, if you can tell the public a little bit about where you started, how football got into your life back in Trinidad.
Again, thank you very much for this platform. I really don't like speaking about myself, but I feel I have been blessed to have been part of football in all aspects of the game as a player. Fortunately, playing at all levels. Played national football, youth football, played in our senior team. Came up in a club that I thought really produced a lot of gentlemen, good people before footballers, but they did produce footballers also. And I think that base was a base that allowed me to grow as a person. And I went on to coach I can say all of our national teams. We use 17 teams on many occasions. I won the 23 team on 2 occasions. I've been the assistant coach of Trinidad and Tobago under many of our foreign coaches, which I thought might have been the greatest experience that someone can gain. Working with a Leo Benaca, who coached Real Madrid, coached Holland, working with a Francisco Maturana, one time voted in the best 5 coaches in the world, just spending time with him for 1 year. Then with a Wim Rijsbergen, who played for Holland, Otto Fitzer, who won the U17 World Cup with Ghana. It was just a really good experience. And I was able to carry that into coach education because the opportunity to see different methodologies, how people process information, and how we can put that into what we do in our region. So coming out of that, I started to get involved with coach education, not just in Trinidad and Tobago, but with CONCACAF and with FIFA. I've been with FIFA since 2010, doing all level courses, the basic, intermediate, and advanced. I've done the Olympic Solidarity courses for them. I've presented the information to various countries throughout our region. And then I was part and parcel of CONCACAF design of their programs, where I also sit on the CONCACAF coaching panel, a panel that allows us to pretty much help standardize coach education in the CONCACAF region. And as you know, our region is one that's diverse, one that will have countries of the size of America, Mexico, Canada, and then we have the smaller ones also. So we have to figure out what is best for all of them. And we have been doing that for the last 4 years with CONCACAF. So that in a nutshell, it's what I do. I'm also a technical leadership. I don't like using the word experts because we are never really experts. We are always learning. Where I pretty much help MAs and technical directors deal with major challenges that they may have or any issues that we can deal in a better way. So that's pretty much what I have done in the last few years.
Okay. So let's talk about the coaching education period of it. We've spoken on several occasions about the work that you have done, and I think more recently, I think it has become evident that you are involved in a process that will educate the region in football and putting a structure in place. Could you tell us a little bit about when that started and how that progressed throughout the years?
Well, I'd like to carry it back to about 10 years ago where we started coach education, and CONCACAF started coach education, and we weren't able to bring it to the level where it was standard across the region. And then I will say about 5-6 years ago, there was really a drive to bring standardization to coach education. So CONCACAF included UEFA, who have sent someone with CONCACAF to help design and help meet the minimum standards of coach education at different levels, at the pro license, at the A license, at the B license, and at the C license. How that was done was, one, by educating coach educators in various countries, putting them through many workshops and courses, offering licensing programs across the board, looking at the different licenses in all of the countries that are actually existing, seeing how it compares with the standards of CONCACAF, also assisting all the countries that would need help to get them up to those standards. So it's a process. The process is not one that takes a year. Some persons will take 2 years, and they will only get into the convention which is the standardization of the courses and recognition of them across CONCACAF when they have met certain criteria. And again, this has been done with UEFA, and the reason for it is that there's going to be a time where the information is going to be recognized across confederations. But first, we have to do it at home. CONCACAF is the last one to get the confederation, meaning the recognition of courses throughout their region. So right now, I think we have reached verifying the process. The application forms will come out where countries can decide at what level they will enter the convention, whether it's a C license, a B license, an A license. There are minimum requirements. Each level carries a certain amount of content hours, a course syllabus. It will ask for competencies that will be expected of each ME. So each ME must be ready, and their coaches must be ready. So it's not just saying, I do a B license course and I can apply at a B license level. You must make sure that these things are in place, and you have coach educators at that level that have been through a process also to deliver such courses. CONCACAF will come in and assess your programs and see if you're ready, and if you are not, help you through that process. So that's pretty much where we are.
Hold on, man. You're jumping
Are you guys ready for questions, Samir?
Hold on.
No, I just needed to clarify, because so is this, because I know what you do, Mr. Corneal. It so far it seemed like it's across the Caribbean nations, but I know this, based on what you have been saying, this is across CONCACAF. So is it first to get the Caribbean nations up to speed and then integrate that with CONCACAF, or there are steps being taken at the same time in terms of what you're doing to go outside of the Caribbean into Central America, to capture the Panama? Are they are doing their own thing there?
No, it all are being done the same. It's the same being done together with the Caribbean. Central America is part of it. So when we speak about the coaching panel, we speak about Mexico, Costa Rica, Honduras, El Salvador, USA, Canada, Trinidad and Tobago, Jamaica. We meet together. It's the same information. Of course, we see what is happening in the Caribbean because that's in front of our eyes. But it's also happening in El Salvador, Guatemala, Panama, and all the other countries, inclusive of USA and Mexico.
But that's important. That's an important distinction, because I think what I heard you said just now is that the coaching education system that's been put in place, if St. Lucia meets the standards and is offering a C license, and one was to go ahead and meet the competencies to acquire that license, that person is eligible to coach anywhere in the CONCACAF region.
That's the end product.
That's the end
but
product.
For that to happen, St. Lucia will have to fill out all the criteria that's necessary with the competencies, with the type. So I'll give you an idea of what we look for. We look for what type of learning. Is it reality-based learning? Is it club-based learning? Is it something that you'll have mentorship? Is it study visits? Is it internships? We would look at what type of modules you have. Is it theoretical, practical? Is it a module of blended learning? Some online, some in person? Is it projects? So coming out of it, there are criteria to follow. And if a country is not ready yet, again, CONCACAF is going to help them. It may take some of them 6 months. It may take some of them a year. But we are there to help them. So some will be ready more than others, just because of the experience and the persons that they have that may drive that program for them. So a USA, a Mexico will probably be more ready. The countries that really had coach education at the forefront. In Trinidad, we are fortunate because I am from Trinidad. I live there. So our programs have been designed in relationship to what CONCACAF is requesting. So hopefully we'll be able to apply at a higher level. But Trinidad doing it's not good enough. We need for all the other countries to do it. And that's why we are looking at St. Vincent, St. Lucia, Guyana. We have been working with them, Dominica, Jamaica. I've been to Jamaica a couple of times as well, working with their coach educators. And I think once everything, including the organization of the courses, because yes, we are speaking about one side of it, but the courses does carry a level of organization you must see in place. Do they have a course coordinator? Do they have the support of stakeholders? Do they have the support of their ME? So there are criteria that's also important. So again, it's CONCACAF and not the Caribbean.
Okay, wonderful. At some point, I'd like you to discuss a conversation that I can remember from some point back where you were involved in creating, and correct me if I'm wrong, and helping create the FIFA youth coaching manual. Am I correct about that? When was that?
A couple of years ago. It was a couple of years ago. They have actually revisited the manual now. And again, it's for terminologies, what type of terminologies you use, because sometimes what's used in other parts of the world, we may have a different word, but we have the same meaning behind it. So in creating that one, a couple of years ago, I went to Zurich and we had a group of us, a committee that sat down and went through that manual.
When you say terminologies, what do you mean by terminologies? In what aspect of the game?
So if we're going to produce a session, I may say session planning. Another person may say methodology. So it's just what terminology you use. We try to make sure that those terminologies are consistent across the region. And an example, you may say format of play. Somebody else may say system of play, but we mean the same.
Right.
So again, it's really making sure the terminologies match up, and especially for our region. I can give you an example. The numbering system that's used in some countries, they differ. They differ from country to country. The positions don't differ. So we may say across the defense, we may go 2, 3, 4, 5. When another country goes 2 as a fullback, 3 as the other fullback, and 4 and 5 as the 2 central defenders. But you go to Holland and you see it's 2, 3, 4, 5. You go to England, you see it's 2, 4, 5, 3. And you go to some countries where the defensive player, who's a number 6, maybe a number 4. So again, it's just to clear that up. But we have to do what works for us, what's consistent in our region, and we speak one language. And that's pretty much what we are doing. We are still allowing MEs to have their own personality, and they have their own environment that they have to work around. That's why we said it must be reality based. So again, years ago when we did that, it was part of designing that manual. I'll tell you also, when we were putting together the CONCACAF C, B, and A license, it was done together. It was not just taking a license from Europe and saying, this is what we are doing. It would have been reality-based. So an example of, let's say, an A license coach in the US or in Mexico, maybe coaching a club or pro license. He may be coaching that club, and every weekend he's able to apply his trade. What happens to a coach in the Caribbean who does not have that ability to apply their trade every weekend? We have to find areas that may be similar in nature and design it slightly differently to get the required practical information or the ability to do practical work while preparing for a license. So you may ask a national coach, we may ask a national coach, could you log all your national sessions? but he or she does not coach a professional team, does it mean they can't get an A license? Because an A license, coaches have to coach 18 games. That's a season. Nationally, 18 games will be what? A year?
Yeah. Could be more.
Could be more.
Yeah,
So we have to find ways of what's best for each ME, and ME meaning member association, each country. And once they can fulfill, again, the content, the requirements, your reality, what type of what type of task, what type of assessments are being done. Once the assessments are continuous, they're consistent across the board, because we have formative assessment, we have summative assessment, we have assessment that at all the levels we do logbooks where coaches have to put in practical hours with teams, and it must be logged. It's also done in their environment, so it's a lot easier for the coach to follow up. We have coaches or coach educators, for example, in Jamaica, that will visit sessions with coaches. So we are really giving them a handrail to help them through it. Years ago, coach education was pass and fail. But what happened to those coaches that failed? Did they stop coaching? No.
No.
So then we need to help them. We
Right.
need to make sure we get them ready, because we found out years ago those coaches continued. So why not just help them through it? They would not all be clubs. They will get to a level that they will be in a better position to help their charges. So again, it's a different approach, but it's approach that I think it's user friendly. Just for the coaches to be part of the courses, we embrace them. We meet them at whatever level they come, and we carry them to a level that we think that it can help their charges.
All right, let me just interject, because I know you keep referring to our region, and I want to again to make sure when you speak of our region, and I'm asking this in this context. When you say our region, it is CONCACAF and not
Correct.
CFU.
Correct.
All right, so I ask that because generally when we think about CONCACAF, I can say, like, probably in Jamaica, we think that whatever we do is separate and apart from what USA does, especially in coaching, because they seem to do their own thing, and probably Mexico. All right, then you have like the Curacao and the Dominica Republic and the Haiti, who oftentimes partner with Haiti with France, and the Dominica Republic in partnership with Spain, who bring in technical persons who uses a different kind of language than what CONCACAF is trying to get all of us in CONCACAF. So how realistic it is, as you're doing this, to get the USA on board, Mexico on board, the Spanish-speaking Caribbean islands on board, and the French-speaking and the Dutch-speaking islands on board with this concept, seeing that they are bringing in nations that they are connected to.
What a good question. And strangely enough, all you did was showed me how far ahead we are. We sit with USA, we sit with Mexico, we have sat with them for the last 4 years. We have been discussing the courses, we have been discussing the content, we have been discussing the coach education and coach educators. We are educating the coach educators the same way. And we have done this with USA, Mexico, and all of Central America. Strangely enough, I am in Curacao right now. And just yesterday, I was sharing our information, which they were also part of, when it comes to coach education at the different levels and the minimum requirements for each level. So we have Curacao also embracing what we are doing, even though they have the ability to utilize persons out of Holland, but Trinidad started with Holland many years ago. The US started with Holland many years ago. Holland's been in Brazil. They've been all over the world. So in saying that, it's really terminologies. It's nothing new about football. France isn't doing anything that's new. England is not doing anything that's new and different. Brazil, Italy, or Germany. It's about presentation, how you present the game, how do you standardize coach education. And I think we have really gone a long way that CONCACAF is on the road for this convention.
Could you clarify something for me? You started the conversation and you just used the word again, standardize. Correct me if I'm wrong. We are standardizing things across the Caribbean, across CONCACAF, which is important. But we also, I think in part of your conversation, you said there are several different ways in which the MAs could deliver a course based on their reality. Is that correct? Is that
yes? And let me clear that up.
Yeah.
So when we do continuous development, the MAs that are really more organized may have club teams, and you meet their coaches at their club level. Ones that don't have as many club teams or not as organized, that group may meet together, and you do continuous development as a group and not within your club. The ability to be flexible, it's the same information, it's the same contact hours, but done slightly differently. In some places, it's done by video, where the club coaches it has to be videoed and sent to the coach education department, because that's also a method. I've seen it. It's in Europe. It's in USA. We do it somewhat in Trinidad. We do it in some of the countries. So it's one way of also doing it. What's important will be contact hours, the type information. Are they following the information that was shared on the courses? Are they using the right methodology? When it comes to actual practical coaching, is the organization what we are asking for of the group on the field? What are the type interventions? Is there a level of understanding how the information is shared? So that's consistent. But when it comes to how you actually assess, that changes a bit, where it could be at the club, it could be in a group with a coach educator. Some of it could be videoed. Some of it is even videoed live. I remember doing something in Antigua that it blew my mind away how ready they were. Because while the assessments are going on, I am sitting in Trinidad, I'm speaking to the participants. While they are actually doing the assessments, they can hear me. I am seeing the field. I'm able to tell them, okay, should the field be a little bit bigger? What can you do to make this session, to bring it to reality? Do you need to add players? That was done live. And I had to say, Antigua led that way for our region. It's probably done in other places, and we are going to use that now, where we can have live footage of assessments that will be going on. You guys know the technology we have. Look what we are doing right here.
It is. We're in a quite interesting place at this time in history, in terms of being able to communicate. You can, on any given day, you can speak to people and see people in almost any part of the world. And just to close off that thought process, so the content is the same. We're just talking about just the way we assess. So the content, the language, if you go from
the methodology of presenting information, making sure it's appropriate at each age group level.
Right.
So how you may present information to a 12 to 16-year-old may be different. One, the ability of the players. Two, where they are in their periodization. Three, is it development based? Is it based on results? So how you deliver the information at different levels may change, but we will equip coaches with all of the information and let them come up with what's best. What's best. That's where the education comes in. You know, it's no different to a university in our region. Universities have to find best practices of how to deliver information. That has changed from year to year. And coach education is the same. And as I alluded to earlier, sometimes we have this feeling that, no, it's different in France. Or it's different in... It's not. It's not any different. And I'm fortunate to have traveled the world, to sit in workshops with some of the best minds, football minds in the world. You know, we were just in Uruguay recently, I think 2 weeks ago, and the Brazil technical director was there, plus one of the heads of the department. We had from Argentina, we had from Chile, from Colombia, we had from Venezuela. And you have to think, there isn't a magic formula. No. Coach education is what supports the quality of the game if all the other factors are in place. Sometimes we are running away from the other factors and thinking coach education is going to do it. If our young players don't have proper fields, if they don't play in leagues that are competitive enough, if they don't get the necessary exposure to the higher level game, then coach education can only do so much. It must be accompanied. That's why it's so important for member associations to have proper running technical departments that will take care of all areas, inclusive of relationships with major stakeholders, everyone having one vision, and each department playing their role when it comes to that vision. So you can have the best coach education in the world, but your teams don't play. No coach education.
Let's digress a little, because there's a very important piece of it. Because over the years, in my interaction with coaches in the region, the topic of field comes up. Okay, as you move through the region, I'm sure you look. I watched the women's game last night over the weekend, and that's in Curacao at the moment, right? And they seem to have some. Say that again. Nicaragua, right. So the game last night, the Jamaica game was in Nicaragua. It seems to be a decent surface. The games in Curacao seem to be different surface. But in many parts of the region, the quality of the surface just doesn't seem to meet the standard it should be. And you're just pointing out how important it is. Now, and part of getting the resources to do it, and this is, we just drifting away a little bit here because I think this is important, is the MA's ability and desire to put together a strategic plan that involves the stakeholders, which a lot of times seem, based on FIFA information, that would be the best way to help get businesses on board, to get sponsors, to get the business community involved, the people, the stakeholders of the game. What it is you are seeing as you work with MAs across the region in terms of strategic planning to help take care of some of these, as you call, other factors that is just as important, or even more important, I don't know, just as important as education.
I think one of the fallacies that I have seen, and across the region especially, we don't need to give them, FIFA gives them plenty money. FIFA gives the MA plenty money, so they can do everything. But we have had stakeholders that we have seen come on board, ministries of sport, ministries of education. We have to hope that our vision incorporates stakeholders. So the vision cannot be accomplished if the stakeholders are not part of that vision. So we spoke about fields. Some persons used money from FIFA So they have artificial fields, which I fully agree with, in Jamaica, in St. Lucia, in Guyana, in Barbados, in a lot of the countries. Why? We are in the hurricane belt. We have a rainy season. We need to have those artificial fields. If we have to embrace and continue to embrace, the stakeholders must be able to see the role that they can possibly play. That must be part of your strategic plan. It cannot be done without them. So for an example, high school football is a big thing in our region, and they're a major stakeholder. So what we have done, and I can only speak about Trinidad at this time, if we can help them with coach education, so their coaches are more equipped, if we can help them at the younger age groups with rules and regulations that may assist proper development, we will continue to guide and support. Other countries may need to do the same. We can't say, well, in other regions, we have seen in Europe, high school football is not where that does not develop players. But in our region, it's what's handed to us. We are still an amateur region. You know, we have some professional football, and I have to say that some in inverted commas, because what's professional football?
Is that some or professional?
Because interestingly enough, if you see what our players make, it's not close. It's not even comparable. Some of them get to make a living, very few. And we cater for the masses, which is really amateur football. But then really create an elite pathway for the ones that will show the potential to become an elite player. Each MA has to create that pathway for those players. And that's just a few, 30 to 40 younger players at each team.
So it's sung, and every time the with almost, as you probably may or may not know, we've had several people on from different MAs within the region, and there seems to be a difficulty in, we know everybody knows the importance of a strategic plan, but I think you would agree that I can't sit and build a strategic plan on my own. I have to have the input of the stakeholders so that they could buy in. And that seems to be from the conversations that I've had, that seems to be eluding us a little bit in terms of being able to bring everybody to the table, so that if I'm a business owner, I know what the member association plan is for, let's say, the under-17 team, right? FIFA suggests that we need a coach for a 2-year cycle, okay? Which, as you know, it's probably going to be turned into, we're probably going to see an under-17 tournament every year, according to the president. And I'd like to get your thoughts on that. But if I'm a business owner and I'm part of the planning process, do you think it makes it easier for me to support what's needed?
Yes and no. I'll tell you, we have seen it where the support comes very tangible, meaning what support we need. We need support for the exposure of players. Giving a player exposure, it's costly. A player needs to get exposure from U13, U15, U17. Where does that money come from? So within that plan, you will see if we can get the elite side of the program to travel, to play competitive games, to challenge those players, because that's how they will grow, for them to see what happens at the highest level, then that in itself, it's very costly. I can speak about what it will cost us. For us to take a team on a tour for 10 days, it would cost between 60 to 90,000 US dollars. And then in that same year, we may have CFU tournament, we may have a CONCACAF tournament at U15 or CFU at U14. So we have to juggle. We have our national senior teams playing, where you also have to juggle, and we are looking at each trip over 130,000 US dollars. So it comes to prioritization. So from the outside, sometimes it's easy to sit. And when persons are not aware of the type of money we are talking about, once your programs are in place, you're talking about a U15 girls team, U17, U20, and senior. And then when you're talking about men, we are now talking about 8 teams wanting the same exposure or needing the same exposure. That's where we have to start juggling. And it's a lot of money. So even when stakeholders come on board, sometimes it helps one program. We have to figure out which one needs the help the most, which one's a priority at this time. So it's always difficult. Travel within the Caribbean, it's easier for me to fly to Miami than to fly to Jamaica or to fly to St. Kitts and Nevis or Antigua. Actually, I can go to Miami twice than go to Antigua. So it's so expensive, it must be taken into consideration. So when we come up with plans, and we have all these great plans of this is the part we have an elite player, and we miss important opportunities to give these players exposure. That's why I said coach education is going to assist. But there are other areas that are important. We spoke about it. Fields, exposure of players, simple things like the analysis of the games, which could be done. Some teams don't have GPS units for all of the teams. So you have one that I know in Trinidad, I had discussions with the head coach, and he said, Anton, why don't we share it with the other team? That's perfect. But why can't each team have one? Why can't we monitor all of our players? So if we really start behind when it comes to finance, the countries are not very big. So I'll give you an example. I would not call Trinidad. Let's say St. Vincent. Who will be their major stakeholders that's going to give St. Vincent as a company $150,000 US? It's difficult. And especially coming out of the pandemic, if a company lost revenue in the last 2.5 years, a lot of them are thinking it hard to say, well, let me put out that amount. But it's something that we need to keep revisiting. We need to, as you said, make sure there's a plan in place, make sure they can see the plan. I was actually going to afford you to take a peep into our plan. If there was a place I could have presented it. Do I have the ability to do that?
Yes, there is. So no, man, there is. So if I can help you with that, because you have that feature with you, and then it can come up. All right. So if you below where you're at, you see present.
Present, right?
Right. So if when you go there, you select where it's at and you present it, it comes up. It should come up, right?
Share screen.
Right. So you share screen. Is it a document? Is it something on the web?
No, it's something that I have on my computer.
Oh, so it's there now. So when you go to present, there is a part of it that says, when it says share screen, you hit share screen, then it says window or Chrome tab. You see that?
Are you able to see anything yet?
No.
Not yet. But it says choose what to share. You should see window or Chrome tab. And you have to click on.
I'm seeing that, yes.
All right. So if it's on your computer, you have to click window. When you click window,
right.
If the document is already open, then you can click on it and it will share. So you have to actually.
Okay, let me open the document, because I have no problem you guys taking a peep at what we are doing.
Management, could you remove the question temporarily?
Yeah, I will remove, because there's a question from Kendall raised.
That was great. I'm happy to answer that question. Are you able to see the screen?
No.
Not. All right. So have you done that?
Yes, I've done. I've done Windows.
Are you going to share?
I have
And you
done
click
share.
on,
Share is not coming.
all right. So when you go
It's
to
not allowing me
Windows,
to share.
you click on the document itself.
Right. Let me
When you
go to the
click on,
document itself.
right, and you
1
come down to the
second.
bottom, you should see cancel and share
Right. I
beside it.
clicked on the document. Can you see it at all?
You have to click the share beside the cancel
I
button.
did. I did.
Oh, and it's not coming up.
No, it's not lit. Only the
It's not.
cancel is lit. The share
Oh,
is
no,
not
no, no.
lit.
All right. So I'm going. All right. So you can send it to, if you don't mind, you can probably send it to Andre, and then.
A mine. A mine.
Okay. All right. All right. All right. All right. Uh,
So
or if you can. All right. Let me see. I'm
that's all
going.
right. That's okay. We'll do this another time.
Is
Let's
is that is,
continue.
is that a strategic plan you're talking about?
It's yes, it's our long-term development plan. It's over 166 pages.
Oh.
It covers everything. And
All right.
you know what? Let me just give you an idea of what it covers. So you will be able to see what's missing. So, right, we start the plan off with it covers our technical department, how it's designed. It talks about all of our programs: mass football, youth football, academies, elite football, women's football, coach education, and safeguarding. It speaks about our cultures and values. So I'll give you an idea. That's tied into all of our programs. So our cultures and values are integrated in the way we play, the way we coach, and the ability to adapt to adversity. The diversity of our people brings out the mutual respect to each other, respect to the game, and respect of self. Our philosophy is influenced by the way we speak, the accent we place on our body language, and the way we respond to challenges. Our education system has instilled discipline, morality, and fairness in our people, which forms the foundation of our people. Our music, dance, and creativity are key pillars in our holistic development, which has influenced some of our successes. So that's just our cultures and values. It's a lot to go through, but as I said, I was happy to share some of it. I'm happy to share this program. It's going to be finished, completed in about 2 weeks. It's 90% completed.
Okay. I see Kendall asking, how would you
Right.
address the competency of the leadership of the MAs that have a direct impact on the execution of programming and the necessary resources to improve the level of the game? I think he made this comment based on something you were saying earlier, speaking about the infrastructural development that must partner the coaching education in terms of fields and those resources. And I think he had alluded to the fact that FIFA does give a lot of financial resources to the MAs to do what they are supposed to do. So I think it is in
I'm happy
relation
to
to that.
answer this here. Really happy to answer it. So just to read it. Oh, you moved it?
Oh, sorry. Okay, so
That's
let me
all
put
right.
it back up. Not a problem. Yeah, there you go.
Right. So how would you address the competency of the leadership of the MEs that have a direct impact on the execution of programming? Excellent. And the necessary resources to improve the level of the game. One, each ME has its own governance, how it's governed. Decision making always goes back up to the EXCO, the executive committee, who makes the final decisions. The departments, so for an example, the technical department would cover areas like coach education, youth football, elite football, women's football, safeguarding, national youth teams, high performance programs, the technical development scheme, amateur football environment analysis. The ideas coming out of that has to be taken to the EXCO. EXCOs must be or should be supportive of the ideas coming out from a technical department. That's where some of the issues happen. If you don't have persons that understand long-term development, if you don't have persons that understand how you prioritize, if you don't have persons that understand the importance of some of the challenges, so you may have persons saying, no, those players don't need exposure. We don't need to spend money there. Then we have issues with the program. So it doesn't matter what program you have in place. The leadership sometimes They may not understand or may not even understand the importance of some of the areas. That's always going to be a challenge, because where does the leadership come from? So let me give you an example. An exco may be made up of regions in a country, or in Jamaica, parishes in a country, or in some of the other islands, you have parishes, you have regions. It may be made up of some of the football stakeholders. Could you imagine? We have to make sure all of them understand and all of them are on the same page. And they are that way in some countries, but there are some countries they are not. So then, what is expected when it comes to proper leadership? Some may be misinformed, some may not have the experience or exposure, but they are in the positions. And we have to help them. We have to help educate. We have to continuously show that bigger picture. But it does not necessarily mean all of the programs will be supported. So again, it is something where governance is completely different in MA to MA, and how the MAs lead, they are different. Some are driven a lot by the head of the leadership, which is the presidents. Some are driven by the presidents. Some are driven by committees. That fluctuates. And because of that, that can become an issue if it does not support the long-term development plan.
Let me ask a question in follow-up to that, right? Because I know this coaching education started in, I believe, 2010. But it has improved since that time across the region. And during that time as well, parallel to that is that like a Haiti, a Dominica Republic has come into prominence. The Suriname seem to have been doing better, the Curacao, and then what we consider to be the powerhouses in the Caribbean, Trinidad and Tobago, seem to have fallen off, at least on the male side of football, for the most part. But we see where these other nations seem to have come into greater prominence. Some, like Haiti, probably are even more limited in terms of the resources they have available to them. What are some of the factors that are contributing to this? Because, like I said, the general consensus in the Caribbean is that the powerhouses in the Caribbean in football, Jamaica and Trinidad. And so most of the, like I said, you are in Trinidad, so there is let me give credit, because in Haiti there is a Trini, in St. Lucia there is someone from Trinidad and Tobago, and their program is doing well.
In Guyana as well.
In Guyana. So that could be that, okay, well, even if Trinidad and Tobago national teams aren't doing well, there are Trinidad and Tobago coaches across the Caribbean, and football is improving in those places and spaces. But what is contributing with this kind of education, with the football in Jamaica in particular and Trinidad, why we aren't seeing the levels improve, but it is happening across other spaces in the Caribbean?
Okay, that's a twofold question, and let me answer it this way. Is it coach education that the smaller countries are able now to step up? We don't know. Haiti has a unique situation that's very helpful, where their players are boarded, schooled in one area, one place, train right there. So a lot of the issues that other countries may have as a challenge, they have taken care of that a little bit. And we have seen results. But do you know, very recent, up to a couple of days ago, Haiti U20s decided they are not going to the U20 World Cup qualifiers. They did not show up. We don't know if it's financial. We don't know what the challenges are. But they actually have something in place that part we have gotten them results, where a lot of the kids stayed in one place, trained, schooled. What an ideal situation for their environment. Now, in saying that, coach education has reached all of the countries you have said. So a lot of them are able now to have a little bit more quality into their program when it comes to disseminating information to young players. So you're starting to see teams, they're able to compete a little bit more, but they will still have some of the challenges. A major challenge is competition. Suriname does not get the type competition as they need. Now, at the senior level, I don't know if you know this, but Suriname's able to bring over probably 40 players that's playing in Europe because of a passport that they were able to get for some of their foreign players. So they can now go outside of Suriname and probably bring 24 players home that's playing at the highest level in Holland. That in itself, that development might not have been done in Suriname. That development was done in Holland. And if, let's speak about Jamaica, are they able to also do that a little bit?
A lot.
A
lot. I look at that list last night.
Because you just had an under 17 who came out and he was one of your top players at the recent under 17. So careful now.
So in saying that, and you know what? Countries need to look at where there is opportunity and utilize it. If Trinidad found 15 players playing at the highest level, we should use them. If St. Lucia finds the same, they should use them. They have the ability to play for their countries, but it does not mean development must be pushed on the back burner. Because we have seen many countries in the Caribbean produce top players coming out of systems that we are now rebuilding. As Andre quite rightly spoke about long-term development plans, they are being put in place, and hopefully we will see a better product. But if the support system is not there, it's difficult to ask for a better product. Every time I look at our players, and I was speaking to our national U17 goalkeeping coach last night, and we spoke about going into the U17 boys tournament that Jamaica also played in. How many games did the US play in the last couple of years? The US played probably over 70 top teams in the world. But we came and we played Jamaica 2 games. That was our preparation. 2 games. And we need each other. And strangely enough, we are in discussions with having a memorandum of understanding with Jamaica when it comes to coach education, when it comes to exposure of players, when it comes to areas that we both can grow from. That discussion, we have already planted that seed. I've spoken to Rudolph Speed, I've spoken to Andrew Pitt, I've spoken to Wendell Dunswell, how we can get this together. But it cannot be Jamaica and Trinidad only. We have to continue and help the others. It must be the others, the St. Lucias, the Grenadiers, the St. Vincents, everybody, that we can work with each other. Because for us to ever do well, the others must do well. Somebody has to be pushing you. So again, those discussions are taking place right now. And until we can come up with what areas will be necessary for us to both help each other. I know coach education is one. We've had some coaches that came to Trinidad to do their A license. And that's a start. We've had coaches from Barbados, Antigua, Anguilla, Guyana, Bermuda, BVI. So we are reaching out there. And if I forgot any of them, really sorry, because I am getting older. So I'm allowed to forget one or two little things. So that is going to happen, and it will continue to happen. How we can help our immediate area, which is the Caribbean.
I want to go back to the coaching education bit of it, but I want to mention 2 things. Is there responsibility? I mean, coaching education provides knowledge, right? And I think the coaches have to take some responsibility in regards to their ability to take that knowledge and have it work for the people that they're responsible for. right, and translate it so that we could begin to have success. At the end of the day, if you look at any league across Europe, here in America, or whatever, most of the coaches are working with similar type resources. Some a little bit more than some, but at the end of the day, it's the coach's ability to take the information and prepare their team to have success on the weekend.
I think the statement there may not be consistent with our region. When you work in the US and you work in Mexico, you work in Europe, the support system is completely different to what our coaches have.
No, I understand that. Understand what I'm asking. Whether you're in the region or you're in America or you're in Europe or in South America, most of the environments, the resources are similar. So let's say if we're in the region and we're receiving coaching education through the structure that's put in place, and we are coaching in the TTPFL, for example, or in the JPL in Jamaica, at the end of the day, the information that I'm receiving in the A license is the same information that management will be receiving in the A license. And it's up to us to take that knowledge,
correct,
and bring it back into our environment and make it work on game day.
And in saying that, that's why I mentioned the other factors. Because if you take, and it's the same information, let me give you an example. I went to Jamaica recently. We were in Montego Bay. Do you know when those coaches told me 2 of the Premier League teams are training on the same field at the same time? I did not believe it.
Wow.
I did not believe it. How can 2 top teams train on the same field? They said, no, well, we get half. And another team gets the other half. And they said there's a little group that comes and you have to give them piece of the field.
But you know, you've coached in America, and you know at the youth level, it's 3, 4, 5 teams on the same field.
You said the right word, the youth level. You just said the right word, not at the Premier level. Not and you will know the difference in youth teams and small side
that
teams.
was under other factors. I don't want to coach a youth team. I will not. I have not coached a youth team with less than half a field, because
and with a youth team you can do that, Andre. You know, with a youth team you can do that. If you do what you prioritize at youth football,
I totally agree with you, Anton. That should not be happening. And I know that's one of the things that the GFF has been doing recently is the club licensing. Part of their whole move is to get the clubs licensed and doing this whole FIFA Connect thing that they're doing. And part of that you have to do is you either have to have a lease on a field, a long-term lease or rental, so they know that you have access to this field, right? Because you're absolutely right. There's no way at the highest level of the football in a nation, the top team in the nation has to share a field. I don't know which 2 clubs
that's my point. It shouldn't happen. It shouldn't happen.
Should not.
With elite players. It shouldn't happen with elite players, whether it's youth or adults.
That must have been in the past. I hope that is like sometime in the past, because I don't think that is happening right now.
Well, you know, my recollection is I was in Jamaica less than 2 months ago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you have some work to do, management.
Yeah, I need to do some investigation on that. Like this is very strange. But I don't want to miss Dwight's question, because
I want to answer this here.
Yes.
Is the CONCACAF A license recognized worldwide? When the convention comes on stream, it's going to be recognized in CONCACAF, and if there's a convention between confederations, then it's going to be recognized with whichever confederation works with CONCACAF. So I'll give you an example. Do you know when coaches come from Europe with their UEFA license and they have their UEFA A license and they go to the US, do you know that they have to go and do a B license, a USSF B license? Mm-hmm. They don't accept their A license. So CONCACAF is putting in place that A license would be recognized first within our region by having the convention, and then they will be able to cross confederations. That has to come with an agreement. But right now, we have seen, and these are people that I know saying, why do I have to go back and do a B license? I've got a UEFA A. Because that recognition is not there. But we are in the process that question will be say it's going to be recognized with our region. And when you cross confederations, no different to coaches that went to Europe to coach in the EPL, what did they have to do? Some of them had to do their license again, or they had to do some part of a license so that they can coach in England. It's not given to them, or they can coach in Europe. So again, this is actually the final product that we are hoping to have, that the A license and CONCACAF will be recognized worldwide, but it has to go through a process. And the process is the convention at this time.
All right, let me ask 2 questions because we have one is.
I see you went past my time. You all didn't say anything.
But it looked like you're having fun. It looked like you're having fun, though.
It's not that I'm having fun. Listen, I'm enjoying a little bit of a holiday, one that I wanted to take 17 years ago. And it took 17 years to have this holiday. But it,
All right,
it
so
feels like a working holiday.
Can you give us 17 more hours? I'm just kidding, just no. But what I want to ask though, is it in because I've let me just say it's also a calling program. So persons have been calling from Trinidad and from Jamaica, but I have not taken any of the calls because we didn't make
Take
mention
them if you want. You can
All
take
right.
you can really take any call because there's no hidden agenda.
Right.
We need transparency, and what a great opportunity to alert our people in our region about what is happening. So it's okay.
And,
Right.
and
I
I
wanted
just,
to at least say that.
I just say that I'd like to add to that. In my opinion, that is good leadership, and I'd like you to make sure to ensure that mindset transcends throughout the region, especially in our country, in Trinidad and Tobago, that the leaders understand that they have to engage the stakeholders.
I can't ensure though. I will
Well,
hope.
well, whatever you could do to make sure that they're a little bit more, because sometimes it presents in a way that we understand that we are not like that. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah,
But it presents in the wrong way. So
All right, so,
whatever you could do in that regard would be good.
so all right. So let me ask this question, then I take the call. Right. So, isn't there a threat to the the coaches in the region if it is opened up that they once licensed and it goes through this committee, then coaches can move like a Mexican coach can coach in our league and all of that. But at the same time, how realistic is it that a coach from Trinidad, a coach from Jamaica, gets a high coaching job in the MLS, having done their license in from the courses here? Same thing for Mexico, because again, it, maybe it's not a reality, but there is a perception that if it is done in the bigger or higher ranked nations, it is better, like you were saying. So a person, for example, coming with a bachelor's degree, say from Oxford or Howard or Duke or Preston or one of those universities, somehow it has more value than what is achieved at the University of Technology. Is there any risk that our coaches may not be able to move into the higher ranked nations to coach, but those coaches could come and coach in our region, though the license is similar across CONCACAF?
I like the question because what I see is it's going to force our coaches to step up. It's going to force our coaches now because the license doesn't make you a coach.
Yep.
The license gives you the opportunity to coach. It's like a degree. A degree doesn't give you the authority to go into a situation where all of a sudden you're the expert. You've got to work in that job. No different to a coach. And of course, let's take a look at it. You just spoke about Trinidad coaches. Why are there other places? Why are we seeing them popping up? Because you may think this person may be more ready, may have a little bit more exposure, and you may use someone like that. But if you're a local coach that's certified, You yourself have to put in work. No certification is just going to get you a job. It means you yourself have to work. You have to put that work in. So I think the competitiveness within the countries, it's going to allow the game to grow and the coaches to grow.
All right, we have on the line. This is Andre's rival. This is the person who actually called, was on the program, and said that Jamaica would defeat Trinidad and Tobago. What 7-0, Andre?
7-0.
And the TNT team clipped it and played it to their. So just giving you some background. So he has a question.
I love to see him when he speak though. Unfortunately, we can't see him today. I tell you who you're gonna talk to. You're gonna talk to Dawson. Go ahead.
Welcome to I Assure Sports, sir.
Good morning, man. Good morning, the team from the Soca Warriors. This is, I didn't think I need somebody to introduce me. This is Cataract, the head of the Reggae Boys Ultras, aka Mr. Seven Love. And your day is coming. Your day is coming. See you in the Gold Cup if you could get out the group. So your day is coming. And when that day comes, Andre and TD, Laurie doubles the green mango with pepper, and they are not sweet enough. Called
once it's one of us, that's all. Airport. Once it's one of us going up,
yes,
right. We'll be required. But coach, I know TD, I know more than Andre. But that's the thing about football in ultra rivalry. You know, when you get a defeat, sometimes you have to hold it for a whole year of banter until the next season comes around. But kudos to you got the result, and we will see each other again. But coach, I have a question. It really was about elite players,
right?
And I wondered, many times we talk about the fact that we don't have money in the region, and that the North American, let me put it, the North American teams, Canada, United States, and Mexico, have an advantage over us because they have money to put into their football program. But the one competitive advantage that we haven't used is that we have in Europe, particularly in England, but when it comes to Suriname, they have Holland. When it comes to French Guyana and Guadeloupe and Martinique, they have France and Haiti as well. The elite talent that has been developed at elite academies and elite club structures, we haven't found a way to have a systematic, logical, and sustainable way of identifying, recruiting, and retaining elite talent developed outside of the region that is eligible to play for the region. And I just wondered, when you spoke about elite players in your strategic plan, were you referring to those elite developed players in England, for example? It would apply to Trinidad. That's part A. And part B was, what are some of the steps that you're taking to recruit the talents? I do research all the time about Jamaica, but when I'm researching, sometimes I see a nice player, like a Tyler Blackett, and then I see that red and black flag.
Well, then you need to call us. You need to call us right away.
He might be afraid that he may not be able to turn around the results.
Twofold. I'll tell you what's good about your question. I am going to allude to a program that FIFA just offered. It's a talent development scheme for the elite side of the game. That money does not come out of the FIFA Forward program. So normally when we get at 3.0 FIFA Forward program, which takes care of development, it takes care of amateur football, it takes care of coach education. This new program, it takes care of the high performance player. So you're allowed now to create an academy for boys and girls, get them coaches that can coach an elite player, show a pathway of 4 to 8 years for that player, give them the necessary exposure. That program, I don't want to say that the budget is unlimited, but it has a huge budget that's attached to it. And FIFA just past May 31st sent out letters to the MEs saying the money will be given for that program only. Who does that benefit? Countries like ours that need it. Because it may be, and I just don't want to call a figure, it may be 250,000 US a year to 400,000 US a year. That is additional to what we get from FIFA. That program is geared towards the elite player. So hopefully each MA will have a design for their elite players. And I'm in Curacao. I'm at the U20 girls tournament, and I am looking at 9 of our girls from our U17 team playing at the U20 team because they were part of that program for 8 months. They were training 4 days a week with that program, and all of a sudden in screening, 9 of them made the team, which says a lot about just having them trained more often in a more competitive environment. We still weren't able to give them the exposure, but it's good exposure for them. So again, each country should have a design of their elite program. The design is not based on a year. It's based on 4 to 8 years. FIFA has a specialist that comes into the country. I've seen him in Jamaica on 2 occasions, who's going to help support that program.
Is it Jason Roberts?
It's not with Jason, no. Jason will be CONCACAF. The person that comes in is Abdul Faisal. He works as a high performance specialist, and he looks at the program and will guide JFF on how you can possibly support such a program. So I've seen him in Jamaica. So that program is on stream. A lot of persons don't know. We were waiting for FIFA to say when and how you can access the money. That was said May 31st. So you should see something very soon on the local elite program. Jamaica has led the way in the Caribbean when it comes to searching out talent. There was one time there was a screening in Fort Lauderdale, and over 100 young players showed up. What they didn't know, I was looking to see which ones had Trinidad parents. I looked from the outside, but we have to use our social media. We have to use probably organized ways of making sure we can find the talent that's out there. What I like that's happening is people are starting to call the association about young players. They call to say, I've got a 16-year-old. How can I get them to be seen? How can I get them around the elite programs? So that's being done right now, not just in our countries, but throughout the Caribbean.
All right. Oh, you have a next question, and then because I have a next person calling in, I think from Trinidad.
Yeah,
so.
I don't know other callers because I realized that it's international. I just want to say, I heard you have hung up a lot of other callers, but what I heard of that program, Mr. Speed has been speaking on it a number of times. But what I didn't hear from you in for Trinidad is there. How do you strategically plan to recruit your elite talent? Because the 8 years are 2 World Cup cycles, right? And you have to start developing from under 8. And every year while you are developing, the bigger nations are getting better as well. So I just would have loved to hear you could touch on it if Trinidad, you would send your coach over to England to go and look at the Premier League and observe the 2 or 3 players that you have there, and how do you recruit and convince them to take up TNT citizenship rather than turn to England?
And I know you have
have a good day.
You have touched 2 sides. With the U8, it's not elite. It's just participation. It's mass football. We just need for them to play. At U9, at U11, at U13, they go into our regular leagues. But out of that is where we start screening players. And we try to pick up our best 40 players between Trinidad and Tobago and put them into a more competitive setting with proper planned programs guiding them towards elite football. So you really don't see a 13-year-old until they get to 2021. But that's a conversation we can have again.
Yeah. At the next time, there
And
you go.
next
Because
time.
let me just take this next call and then
Go
we
ahead.
can wrap up. All right, call up. Good afternoon, morning, or afternoon where you
Good
are at.
afternoon. Good afternoon. I'm calling from the good island of Antigua, and good afternoon to all the panels. I want to thank Anton for his great work with the B license course in Antigua. I have lots of friends who took that course, and I personally see the rewards been happening on the field with the play. You know, I'm good friends with a few coaches, Jeffers, Donovan, Warner's. Very, very, very good license course. I want to say that I'm happy that Anton touched the question about if the license is recognized worldwide, because management can remember I was on Ryan's show a couple of weeks ago, and they were saying that the course is not recognized worldwide. But Anton clarified that particular aspect of it, which I'm very happy. I think we should do more of these across the Caribbean, because I think we have good talent in the Caribbean if we have good programs. And then let's talk about the talent identity scheme by FIFA, which I'm very much interested into, because I'm very interested in youth development. Okay? And I hope that we can have these programs come off by the MAs and pump the money where it's supposed to be, and make sure we develop good players across the Caribbean, because we have raw talent here. Understand? And I think we also need to have a good pathway for our players to get into Europe, because I think we can produce some very good talents in the Caribbean. You know, and thank you again, Anton, for developing our coaches in Antigua, because I see the rewards. I even tell Mr. Sobi Gums with the TD that I can see the improvements on the field. But we need to have more programs that we could capture more players and develop better players throughout the whole Caribbean. So thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right, thank you, caller. All right, Anton, I think there's a confusion in the comment section, because I think somebody suggesting, I think he made a comment about the UEFA Pro license. I don't think he said that it is not recognized, but I think you were saying that they have to do, even if they have it, there are still certain things they need to do within the USA. So can you just explain that? Because some persons...
It's when you cross confederations, even though you are licensed, and you go to USA, I have seen where they have asked them, could you go and do a B license or could you do an A license? And I tell you, that's twofold. If there's not recognition between the confederations, then you need to make sure coaches will fulfill your requirements. So they may not let them do a C license, but they will ask them, could you do a B or A license? Because there's no recognition yet between. So what's the coach that Coach Leeds that went into the EPL?
Marsh? Is it Marsh?
And they asked him to do, if he can go and do his
Jesse Marsh?
license.
Yeah, Jesse Marsh.
And it's interesting. So it's not of not recognizing. You recognize the license, but to work in some places, they ask you to do their license. I did my license in the US when I lived in the US.
But you're absolutely right. A simple example is you have a Jamaican driver's license. You get a time that you can use it to drive, but you do some additional things so you can get an American driver's license. So
and especially how the Jamaicans drive. I had to say that. I saw some driving when I was going to Mandeville, and I just shook my head. But I don't think we are any better in Trinidad. So,
Anton, before we start to wrap up, and there's so much that we can talk about, and I hope that you could find some time to return to discuss Trinidad specifically.
Okay.
But the 2026 World Cup is coming up. It's in the region. It's I can't think of a better opportunity to have a couple of teams from the region at the World Cup. As you're aware, the host of the World Cup has already qualified, which is Canada, Mexico, and USA because they're hosting, and FIFA has awarded 3 additional spots to CONCACAF region,
3 and 2 half spots.
plus 2 half spots or third spots, whatever they want to call it. So we could potentially have 8 teams from CONCACAF at the World Cup. And
so that's a whole different. What you that kind of worms you want to open their partner?
Yeah, but hold on a minute. Hold on a minute. I think
they have to go.
Yeah, but we could get you back for this. But I think it's important. It's important that we have it here because I don't know how it's arranged.
Andre, what I know is that it's when the guests want to go.
Yeah. But he's gonna go.
You have to let them go, right?
Trust me.
He said 1 hour. It's an hour and 31 minutes. And you see that kind of worms, I would love to discuss it and probably another time.
All right, but let's schedule that. Let's schedule that and come back.
Yeah, we'll do that after here. But
that's a lovely conversation to have.
Yeah, that's important. That's important.
So go ahead, Mr. Corneal. You just say your final words and then we'll wrap up the show. But I'll give you the opportunity to talk to the persons who are listening, because. Yeah, and just let them know where your heart is at and what is the end you have in mind. I think a great man from the Caribbean, late Miles Monroe said, where purpose is not known, abuse is inevitable. And he says, and he always speak, you begin with the end in mind. So just share with the people as you close. What is the end you have in mind for the Caribbean, firstly, and then CONCACAF?
First, I'll tell you, I am Caribbean. And a lot of people will ask, where are you from? I said, I'm from the Caribbean. And in saying that, I would love for our countries to get to their truest potential, whatever their true potential is. And to get to that potential, we have to make sure all the areas that need to be supported must be in place. So it's not just coach education. It's not just players. It's not just the leagues. It's so much more that must be put in place. The sphere for success has many segments, and all of them must be in place. And we are here to make sure we can get that done. I really appreciate you guys giving me this opportunity, and we will continue to see how we can grow football in our region.
Thank you so much, Mr. Corneal. Andre, it's over to you.
Yeah, I think this was, as a shared with you in our discussion, you were the best person to articulate the work that you are doing in the region, and I think you have done a good job on that today, and hopefully we can see one of the things that we always hear, that I always hear when I speak to people. Well, this is what we have. Well, what Trinidad has done for me is to give me, because of the way I grew up, the resilience to come outside of the country and fight for more, and fight for what I want. And I think as a region, we need to get away from this is what we have to this is what we need, this is what we want, so that we can acquire the resources, work to earn the resources, so that we can provide a better environment to develop the game and develop the young people, because your work is going to touch a lot of young people, right, via the coaches, indirectly. So hopefully we can have future discussions. I hope that this one was worth your time, and I hope that the people got from it answers to some of the questions that they had.
Take care. Thank you, both of you. Again, appreciate this opportunity, and I am running. Take care.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Anton Corneal. Thanks again. All right. So there you go, people. He has to run. So like Ketarock says, that police is knocking on Andre's door to arrest him for cyber kidnapping. Manning's man.
We got to play a little small Baron Cataract. He's a good man. He's a good man.
But thank you so much, also Andre, for setting this up. We hope to hear from others. Hope to hear from even the head coach from Trinidad, who has promised us that he would come on. So hopefully we can have him on in short order. But this was very good, very informative. I'm glad that person's here. That the end goal is that these licenses being offered, that they will be recognized. And so there is a place for that. So those who are resisting doing them, you need to capitalize now. That would be my advice to you if you want to really continue and excel in the avenue of coaching. All right. Want to thank you, Andre. I don't know if there's anything you want to add, and then we can.
Let me just say that I was disappointed that the Trinidad national team coach didn't come on. I think the job as a national team coach propels one in a position of leadership, and in that position, I think you have a responsibility to engage with the stakeholders of football because football belongs to the people, and it was an opportunity for him to talk to fans. He may have done it in another forum, but I think the intent in this forum is good. It's a good place to have that conversation. And I think when leaders refuse to engage with the stakeholders, it gives an appearance of insolence, and we know that that's not the case. So hopefully other leaders, not just within the region but within Trinidad and Tobago in particular. So you had the president of the JFF on last night, and that was a good conversation, along with the general secretary. I know Mr. Speed is always on, and these are good, and people are being informed all the time. I saw a relationship started last night, or you were tasked with forging a relationship between Neo and the president, which these things work out sometimes. So hopefully we can get them on so that we can bring what is happening in the state of football to the fans directly from the source, as opposed to when you leave a void, people is going to fill that void with their own information. So thanks for allowing us to do this, management.
Yeah, man, every time. So there you go, people. As usual, you notice we didn't stop, we didn't break to tell you to hit the like button, to subscribe, to share, because we think the material is good enough and it speaks for itself. Nonetheless,
hold on. Let's make correct. Somebody is making trouble. I didn't say that he is rude. I said it gives the appearance. Reading comprehension is important, my friends. The appearance.
I didn't know cataract was an issue with the ear. I thought it was an issue with the eye.
No, I think it's a reading comprehension thing or a listening comprehension thing.
Can you imagine people when Andre and cataract meet? At the Gold Cup, what problems there shall be. What
Cataract trying to get my kids victimized. That's what he's doing.
But I want to say a big thank you to all of you. And now that we are closing the show, I want to ask you please to hit the like button, to subscribe, and to share. We should have had Cameron Simmons on, but I suspected that the program would have gone beyond the 1 hour, and so we shifted that interview. So we're going to do it on Wednesday at the same time with Cameron Simmons. But we have something special planned for you tomorrow in terms of who will be engaging in, and we have something in store for you later. I am Manningsman. This is, some of you call him Andre Bravo. That name was given to him by Cataract. Some say that since the Arsenal fan says that he is Andre Misfortune, I don't know. Since he has gone to London. But he is Andre Fortune. I call him before the game. Want to say a big thank you to you as well. Wonderful show. And again, hit the like button, people. Subscribe and share the content. To all the persons from other places in the Caribbean, Kendall and our friend from Antigua that call in, all the Jamaicans home and abroad. This has been I Am Sure Sports. As usual, when it gets to this point in the show, we say we are over and we are OUT out of here.
Boom, check it out. I don't know it's Jason. I'm a represent for I Am Sure Sports. For the latest news and updates, check out I Am Sure Sports.
Make sure you go to the YouTube channel, subscribe and share. JS representing, I am sure. I am sure sports.